Welcome to lesson 12.3. How did immigrants, specifically those from Eastern Europe, contribute to the development of Western Canada? We'll learn that and more in today's lesson. So stick around and let's learn something. .3, we're going to be taking a look at Eastern European immigrants and how they contributed to the development of Western Canada. And Eastern Europe, you can see it here on the map. This is Eastern Europe. Eastern Europeans were the third largest group of immigrants that came to Canada in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And looking around here in the city of Edmonton, if you look at last names, if you look at some of the businesses and the people around, you can see we do have an Eastern European influence here in our city, here in our province as well. We have people from Poland, from Ukraine, Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, Russia. All of these places are considered to be a part of Eastern Europe, and they started coming here, and they came for various reasons. There were different push and pull factors that brought Eastern Europeans over. For one, a push factor is going to be that life in Eastern Europe was not easy. There was poverty. There was persecution, both political and religious. And we see the Duhabors, the Mennonites, and the Jews coming over because of this religious persecution that is taking place in Eastern Europe. So these three things, poverty, political persecution, religious persecution, are pushing them out of Eastern Europe. And Canada is like, hey, come over here. They're trying to pull these immigrants to come over. And Canada's like, hey, listen, we'll give you land. We'll let you practice your religion. No problem. Come on over. While the idea of free or very cheap land and being able to practice your religion freely, that is going to be a great pull factor that the Eastern Europeans are going to take advantage of. So they're going to come to Canada. They're going to make a home here in the West. And most Eastern Europeans, unfortunately, knew that they would never see their friends or family again. Once they make this journey, that's it. They're not going back. Like, this is a permanent thing. So what they did is they found where people from their country are going, and that's where they followed. They wanted to settle with them and immigrate with them, with the people from the same country when they come to Canada, because they would share culture, they'd be able to speak their own language, and they knew during hard times that they could help each other out because they share that same culture, they share that same language, and they shared that same hardship that they had in Eastern Europe. So they wanted to immigrate together with people from the same country. And these communities started developing, but then it's Western Canada. It's not everybody from the same country. So then you also have different cultures that are mixing inside of these communities. And this led for great new opportunities and experiences in the West, because now everybody is contributing, everybody is working towards a common goal, even though you don't have everybody of the exact same culture from the exact same country. You did have that. It made things easier, but then you also had other cultures as well. And Eastern Europeans definitely contributed to the Canadian economy. The Eastern Europeans, they had huge wheat farms, whereas the Métis and Canadiens that lived here in Western Canada, they had small family farms. The Eastern Europeans, they came, people all from the same country, and they had these massive wheat farms. And it was these wheat farms that became the essential base of our agricultural industry. And it worked really well for the Eastern Europeans because the land and climate during the growing seasons were similar to that of Eastern Europe. And the Eastern Europeans, they were already skilled farmers, and they were very knowledgeable, and they brought all that information and those skills over with them. Okay? But not everybody was a farmer. If you weren't a farmer, there was other things that you could do. You could work in the mines. You could build a railway. You could go in a logging camp, or you can go and you can open a store. So there's all kinds of opportunities for the Eastern Europeans here in Western Canada. That's the economics side of the immigration of Eastern Europeans, but they also played an important role in education and health. As soon as it was possible, they started building schools. They viewed education as something that is valuable and something that is essential. So they built schools as soon as possible. And they wanted their children to be educated as well as help out on the farm or in business or in the stores or wherever. But they saw education as a value. Unfortunately, it was very expensive to come to Canada and to set up your home and to set up your farm and to do all that kind of stuff. So they could not afford to get sick. And if they did get sick, a doctor was very far away. It was not easy to get a doctor. Remember, there's no planes, there's no cars and things like that. Yes, there's trains, but it's not going to be connecting these farms to main areas. So what the Eastern Europeans did, is they formed benefit societies. And this is kind of like health insurance. Okay, every month you kind of pay into it, and when you need it, you can access it. And this will allow them, when they're sick or if they couldn't work, that others would come and help them. And then they in turn would go and help others when others became sick or could not work. So we have how they're contributing to the economy. We talk about how they set up education and healthcare. They also brought with them cultural activities too. And those cultural activities include religion. So just as they were arriving, they saw it important to build and get education going, but it was also important for them to practice their faith. So churches, synagogues are going to be built right away. They're going to form other cultural areas too. So you have your dance groups, you've got your sports clubs, you have your musical societies, you've got choirs, you've got language newspapers. Everything is being formed so that they can feel as much like home as possible. They knew they weren't going to be able to go home, so they wanted to replicate that idea of home here in Western Canada. And Eastern Europeans, although they're from different countries, they had common values and they had a common worldview, and it kept their communities very strong. That's active citizenship. And today, we can take a look at active citizenship and see how it plays an important role today. That's what these immigrants did. They practiced their active citizenship. They helped each other in hard times. They helped each other in times of need. They brought in bilingual priests, so priests that could speak their mother tongue as well as English, so that the priest could be an interpreter in times of need. They got involved in politics. For example, the first Canadian of Ukrainian heritage here in Alberta was elected in 1913. So they quickly got involved in politics. And if we take a look at stats today, there's more than 3 million Canadians are of Eastern European roots. And many of those Canadians are from those first immigrants to the West. And maybe even your family can trace its roots back to this early Eastern European immigration to Western Canada. All right, I want you to head over to your notebook and complete the questions for this part of the chapter.